Hi. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the Hurdling of New Age Technology and the Impact of Pharma Sector Season 1. It's pleasure to have such esteemed panelists with us joining from various geographical locations. And thank you for being here. We request all panelists, these are your personal views, and we will keep aside your organizational views because it's a very generic conversation what we are having. Okay, today we have one of the top leaders from pharma industry. I request everyone to introduce yourself after I call your name. So to begin with, I welcome Mr. Rahul Avasti, digital transformation thought leader. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Thank you, Manish. Thanks a lot. And so good to see all of you. I'm Rahul. I'm right now based in Chicago, but originally from Lucknow. Did my college and a lot of work at Mumbai and Pune. And very, very focused. My dad actually introduced myself to the pharma sector. So he was working in a very top pharma company as he started his career as a medical sales rep. And I always was very empathetic on what he does and the power of the entire sector as well. So it was a fluke that I joined from media back to pharma, and then overall the entire industry, the career in the healthcare. So yeah, good to meet you all, and I'm excited to learn from all the thought leaders out here and share the perspectives.
Welcome, Rahul. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, I will call Mr. Devraj Dasgupta, Head of Technology and Digital International Region from Sandoz. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Thank you, Manish, and great to be here. So I'm Debraj. I like Rahul. I grew up in India. I'm from Mumbai, and I'm a pharmacist by qualification. And then I stuck to the pharma industry. So I've been in the industry for more than 20 years. I had the privilege of living and working in several geographies, including India, Switzerland, Germany, Japan, and Singapore. Right now, based in Switzerland, leading technology for an international region, Sandoz. And as mentioned, all views are personal only, and I really look forward to a stimulating discussion with all of you today.
Welcome, welcome, Devraj. My third panelist is Mr. Gaurav Sangani, MD and founder of Closing Delta. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Hi everyone, it's great to be here, and obviously I know some of these esteemed panelists already, and it's great to want to share. So my background is also I'm born in Mumbai. I'm a Kandivali lad, and I travelled here when I was 7 years old with my family to the UK. I've been here for a long time, as you can probably imagine, and I've worked for GlaxoSmithKline, Novartis, and Boehringer Ingelheim over the last 17 years. So just great to be here, and looking forward to sharing some views on digital and what's going on in the space.
Thank you. Thank you, Gaurav. I'm also Kandivali lad from Kandivali East.
I'm Kandivali West, so we're okay.
Okay, okay. Uh, I call Mr. Deepak Singh, Director, Data and Analytics, IND. Please introduce yourselves.
Thanks, Manish. Hello, everyone. Myself, Deepak, finance guy by qualification and data guy from passion. Been in industry for more than 12 years now, having privileged to have worked earlier with Infosys, Ernst& Young, and currently looking into building the data science, analytics, MLAI practice in IndusNet. Happy to be a part of this session and looking forward for an enriching discussion.
Thank you very, very much, everybody. I will introduce myself. I am Manish Kimral. I am also a technology thought. I would say not a leader right now, but more of a practitioner. And I am come from a BFSI industry. I I'm more into software development, making a lot of web apps and mobile applications. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. So let's start our discussion today. Pharma industry, as you know, and it's a vast and you can say it's an ocean by itself, and it has its own environment, and there are a lot of sub industries and sub domains. So my first question to panelists would be, what are your existing technology challenges in the sector or in the domain you're working? I would start with Rahul.
Yeah, sure. So pharma overall, right? The pharmaceutical is facing many challenges, right? There's a rising
Yeah.
inflation, the increasing competition. But I would say the biggest challenge, I mean, as per the Deloitte study, which was published recently, only 20% of the pharma companies are using AI extensively. And I know, this year, and it's been from a long time, AI is a very, very important, crucial topic. And the reason for that is many layers beneath it. For example, there is a challenge of data integration, cybersecurity, data management. Because if you see, there's a huge amount of, massive amount of data which is being generated from clinical trials all the way through the manufacturing process, right? And the entire distribution as well. And it's very difficult to analyze and understand and how we do things around that. On top of that, there is a very strong regulatory compliance, which is
Mhm.
different in different countries, which again makes it very, very critical as well. And also, I think one of the key challenges on the cybersecurity side of it, I'm not sure if you know a good fact, but as per the IBM, the healthcare industry has the highest cost of data breach per incident. It's around $7.13 million at an average, and this was published in 2020.
Yeah.
So, one of the key challenges, if I have to summarize that, will be data integration. How do we use vast amount of data? How do we unify the data into a usable system, which is very challenging, and I think which is a reason there's a reduced use of AI, and that's why it's impacting a lot of good new drug discovery across the industry, and what else could be done.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Devraj, can you give your views on this?
Sure. Building on everything Rahul has said, which is very relevant and pertinent, right? I think when I look
Mhm.
back in my career in the pharma industry over the last 2 decades, I think in my view, pharma has gone through several phases, right? I think the first phase that we saw was in the early 80s, which was a phase of office automation. This is a time when we first got computers and we got the printers and we started leveraging technology in the office. Email was a big game changer for us for communication, right? The next phase that we went into was more around the customer engagement piece, right? This is what we talk about in terms of omni-channel customer engagement. The third phase, what I see right now, is technology being a disruptor for let's say all the functions in the pharma company, right? So right from manufacturing, clinical trials, drug discovery, customer engagement. So there is not one function that you would argue in a pharma company that is untouched by technology that can be potentially get disrupted. And then the last phase that we'll go into, which is another very exciting phase of technology, is where technology becomes medicine, right? This is the age of digital
Understand.
therapeutics, where apps can treat patients sitting side by side with pills. So I think when you look at these phases, we are on a very interesting journey. And I think there's a saying which says that technology changes exponentially, but management changes incrementally. So the biggest challenge that we have as leaders in the organization is how to make sense of everything that is happening. Also, where to invest, because how do you know these are the right bets you're making, right? You're investing multi-million dollars in technology, but how do you know that there is something not around the corner that is going to come tomorrow and disrupt everything that you have done in the last 4 or 5 years, right? So that I think is the biggest challenge that everybody is facing in the industry right now.
Okay, fantastic, fantastic point of view. In fact, if you have taken like a bigger decade-wise transformation that has happened. Thank you very much, Mr. Gaurav. How would you reflect on these particular challenges that pharma industry is facing?
I think Debraj and Rahul make really pertinent points because being coal facing in the industry, it's important to understand technology keeps coming and it keeps coming in various forms. We had the detail aids moving over to the iPads. We've had emails. We've had CRM data lakes. We've had all of these conversations, and now we're having the conversation around AI. Right now, the interesting piece about AI is that it is going to become part of the way we do things, right? With Copilot going into Microsoft Office apps, with the way that things are being run, I can't go a day without seeing a Chat GPT post about somebody doing something with it. So I think the tool is the tool, right? But the artist is the person who's able to use that tool. And I think there's a whole capabilities piece which Pharma, will have its biggest challenge with, which is taking a lot of people on the same journey. Because we talk about transformation being something as a snapshot in time. It's not. It's ongoing and it continuously needs evolving and changing. So I think some of the biggest challenges are about managing the sort of reflections that are coming out. We can't bet on every horse and we can't make sure that we win in every space. What we need to do is make sure that we win for the patient and that we're winning for the health economies and that we are working with as many stakeholders as we can to realize this transformation. So those are just some of my thoughts, which are a little bit wider ranging. There's no point in talking about AI, it's already here, right? In 2 years' time, it will already be smarter than the human brain in terms of its IQ compared to the average person who's out there, right? It's already running at 157. Okay. Einstein was 160. Yeah. So
That's true. That's true.
this is where I think we're going, and we need to be able to take advantage of that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Gaurav. Deepak, tell me, what's your views? I mean, both Rahul, Devraj, and Gaurav, they give us a very wide spectrum on what's going on. But from a technical, more from a data and analytics director or a head, what do you feel? How that is happening right
So Manish, that is the benefit of coming last in the discussion. We have most of the points covered by the panel members, but I would like to highlight couple of hindrances that currently pharmaceutical companies generally facing. One is lack of visibility of ROI. Any technology or any AI application will give them, right? Um, Now, as a solution provider, or people assisting these pharma companies, we tend to provide ideation to the senior management. Look, your application will do this, your application will do that, but there are various times that we are not able to uh, correctly calculate the ROI those applications would fetch in. And because you have that cost versus benefit analysis going for a toss, those technological solutions or ideations, they don't see the light of the day. So that's one hindrance or uh, problems that pharmaceutical company currently are facing: lack of visibility of ROI. Second, I would say, too much of AI. Okay, now every company, every pharmaceutical company is talking about implementation of AI, uh, without having extensive research and knowledge on how this is going to shape their individual processes, right? So this use of machine learning and AI has been there, since 20 years or 30 years time. But because of this chat GPT and because of these open AIs of the world, this has become more prevalent, and now suddenly everyone is jumping and creating therapy bots, creating HCP engagement tools using these AI applications. But those are very basic applications or solutions they are building. They are not going into the grassroots level and understanding the true benefit. So that is where one of the disadvantage, I would say, of talking too much of AI, rather than concentrating on core benefits that it can generate. um, Lack of structured data is one additional problem that pharmaceutical companies are facing. uh, Pharmaceutical company by its nature has tons and tons of data, right? And companies are struggling to use those data either to build AI solutions or any technological solutions we talk about. That is the core challenge these pharmaceutical companies are having, to make the handwritten prescription data into more structured way, store it in their database, analyze or extract relevant information from the diagnostic reports of patient, right, to enhance the patient journey, to enhance the HCP engagement, right? So predominantly these are the three broad problematic areas, or you can say the struggling areas currently I see in case of pharmaceutical industry, Manish.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. In fact, I liked your point of view on adaptation of AI, and it's like a new thing in the market, and everybody wants to implement it and showcase that they have done it. But what about again an ROI behind it, and what is a long-term and short-term strategy that companies are going to adopt? So yes, I do see a lot of challenges, but at the same time, innovation is key to all success, and early adaptation and experiments is something which my point of view is every sector or every company needs to do. Now coming back to a bigger elephant uh, inside the industry is regulator. You are coming from across geography, and I believe each country or each continent will have its own challenges on regulatory compliance. Now, my after understanding what are technology challenges you have, how does regulatory compliances play in this particular journey, and how far each of these components, even innovation or tech adaptation, how does regulatory play a major role here? So can I will start with Deepak again here, and if you can put your point of view.
Sure, Manish. Talking about the regulatory compliance impact on how, I'll talk about more into analytics and building those solutions. How this is impacting regulatory compliance is impacting our industry. Um, Now, to build any AI solution, any ML solution, we need lots and lots of data, right? um, to increase the patient engagement, patient care, we need lots and lots of data to create what we call as patient persona, right?
Mhm.
Currently in Indian context, we don't have that stringent rules and regulations to have a kind of security on the medical information or a personal health information being shared to pharmaceutical companies, to health tech companies that are coming up. But having said that, there are rules and regulations coming in form of ABHA, which in now we the pharmaceutical companies and the health tech companies have to abide by it. Having said that, having being in this analytics domain and working with top notch pharmaceutical companies of the world, what can be done is, there's something called anonymization of data that can be done before using your personal healthcare information for analytical model buildings. So yes, rules and regulations are there. Companies are abiding by it, but at the same time there has to be certain amount of liberty in terms of usage of those data, obviously adhering to the confidentiality and the security norms in building those AI solutions, Manish.
Okay, okay. How about Rahul? How is regulatory uh, compliance? If you look at from a transformational digital transformation, how would that affect pharma sector?
Yeah, I think one of the key thing which I personally like what regulatory bodies do is they're always focused on increasing accessibility. So lowering cost, I think, is the baseline of innovation, right? We keep talking about these new tools and technologies. We talk about AI. I know Deepak mentioned about too much of AI. I think it's too less of AI, right? So there is always the kind of spectrum, and the reason of that is because we have a very strong, I think, globally, right? As in India, as across the world, there are very sharp global bodies uh, which are really helping look at that. So the more the cost is lowered, the more we can identify new targets for the drug development, and I think that eventually helps the patient. But Manish, as your question on the innovation perspective, right? Um, again, the key role that they play is understanding and ensuring the safety and the efficacy, right? So that is something where, again, from an innovation perspective, it plays a very, very big role. Now, if you see the overall wide range of post-market surveillance or preclinical studies or clinical trials, they are huge, right? But how do you develop new products, right? How do you understand the risk? How do you understand the research and development behind this? So one of the ways is to look at these regulatory bodies have so much of understanding and research and the data behind it. How to collaborate and how to collaborate early on is, I think, one of the very, very important key. So as we always say, right, when we work on any of the approval of the content, there's always this pharma term called MLR, medical, legal, regulatory, right? A lot of time when the content goes to them later, every time the approval slows down. But if you involve them in the innovation very, very early on, I think there is a huge upscale and uptake what the companies are seeing in promoting innovation. I will leave that with one of the new emerging category, which I personally love and follow, is called um, digital diagnostics and digital therapeutics. Digital therapeutics, and if you see what the global bodies are helping already on how they can help with the digital therapeutics, is just incredible. So I recommend all of you to see the role that the larger regulator bodies across the world are playing, specifically in the field of digital therapeutics, and you'll be blown away on the good stuff happening on that side.
Fantastic, fantastic. Just that. Devraj, you are from an Indian perspective and a pharma company. How do you find Indian regulators? How are they helping you, or they are creating more bottlenecks, or how is that happening in India?
Yeah, I think India is evolving, right? I think from a data-driven and digital economy, I think everyone in the world recognizes the transformative journey that India has undertaken, especially in the last 5 years with Aadhaar and UPI and the connecting digital. I mean, you go everywhere, you can pay with QR code. I mean, this is a massive digital stack that we built in India that really allows new business models to flourish. But really, the challenge is, when I look at from a healthcare perspective, not only in India, but I would say it's also across the world, is how do we responsibly treat data, right? Because when you are in the digital domain, you are holding more and more customer data and more, let's say, detailed data about customers, right? Because we are thinking about, from pharma perspective, how to personalize our experience for customers, right? So for that, we are talking about adapting our websites, adapting our content, adapting everything that we do in order to reach the customer. But that doesn't happen in a vacuum. In order to do that, you need to collect a lot more data about the customer than you had in the past. And then the question is, where do you store that data? How do you treat that data? And then how do you engage with customers who want to have different levels of engagement with you? There are some customers who only want to engage with you through SMS, or some other customers who want to meet you face to face, right? So this is becoming very complex for pharma companies to manage. And then the other side is from the government side. Yeah, more and more governments are now legislating around data privacy, which means that data of that country needs to sit within the borders of that country. So that has
That's
huge implications in terms of where you build data servers and
that,
where
that's
you are locating data. I think Gaurav can talk more about GDPR and all the laws that are associated with that. But I think we are now coming into increasingly regulated regime, which means that the cost of doing business, taking into account compliance and regulatory aspects, is also going up because you have to invest in these capabilities as well.
so. Okay. Let Gaurav put his point of view. I will also ask us a typical next question, but again, it's on the regulatory side, because I come from a BFSI environment, and I know how regulators are stringent in terms of auditing you and watching you. In fact, every innovation that you build, what risks that you have brought into market and also to your customers. So Gaurav, after you, I will also ask another set of questions on regulatory compliance, but that would be more specific on how regulators are actually watching pharma industry.
Yeah, I think everyone here makes some really valid points, right? But there's one thing that we want to keep center, which is around patients. Yeah, And I think the regulatory bodies want to work with technology companies. And, Rahul makes a great point on DTX, right? In that digital therapeutics piece, there is a massive challenge. So if we look at something like mental health as an actual example, mental health in the US costs billions of dollars to Medicare. And they're using, the aspects of using technology as well as being able to then regulate those things to allow for reimbursement to still tackle a much bigger population problem, right? Which is in terms of mental health. So these are examples of what's going on in the US, right? In UK and Europe, you've got different challenges with regulators because they're playing catch up when it comes to technology, right? Everybody who knows 1% more on ChatGPT than the next person thinks they're an expert, and you'll see them, spurting on the social media channels telling everyone, look, I made the chatbot do this. But I would say to you, probably most of the audience doesn't even know what a playground is in terms of ChatGPT. So I think this is the challenge, and for the regulatory bodies to focus on the science, to focus on the data, to focus on the clinical, and then to have a steep learning curve of trying to understand technology and the jargon that's usually associated with tech and data is a tough marriage. So I think there's a huge piece here that we can do to help educate people and bring them on the journey with us. Yeah. So that for me is a big, big challenge in regulatory and compliance. And it's something that we need to find a much better way of being able to communicate back to the regulators and say, hey, this technology has the potential to change lives, right? There was a great piece from Faisal recently, Faisal Ahmed. He mentioned that there was a scanner that you can just put on the skin, and using the AI technology, it can tell you whether that person's got skin cancer or not and what grading. Now, this is powerful, and it has the impact of being able to change so much within healthcare systems, right? And that's just in one particular type of disease area. So I think regulators have got a huge job on their hands. I think we need to equip them with the technology knowledge for them to be able to help us, to try and be able to do as much as we can to reduce the cost of the actions and then actually increase the patient benefit.
God, I
Actually,
love
my
that.
next
The only way to survive a tough marriage is get educated about each other, right? So I like the way you put it.
Yeah,
13 years in, she's watching the live downstairs. I better be careful what I
yeah,
say.
that's important. And again, just wanted to add a point, right? Gaurav, you mentioned about this skin scanner and AI. We don't even have to go so far. I'll give you a simple example where we are behind in regulation. So when COVID happened, right? And let's say when things started reopening and you visited a restaurant, what did you see? The first thing we all saw was that you could get a menu on a QR code, right? I mean, think about it. In this day and age, we are still buying packs of medicines from pharmacies, which has this paper inside, which we have to take out and we have to read all the fine print. There is no QR code there to tell us, what this drug is all about. So I think that we have a long way to go, right? But we don't even have to go as far as AI. Even with simple technology, we have a lot to catch up on.
Yeah. I would
So-
just add one point because I've seen it and I'm going to call them out because they're excellent in terms of what they've done. So if you look at Halion, which has just been spun off from GSK, they've got a new barcode scanner that you can essentially scan onto your phone and it will read it. So it almost uses the barcode of the product from the manufacturing perspective to be able to showcase that PIL, right? So I think there are companies that are sort of leading in the space and we can all learn from that for sure.
my question, actually, you have put a point on it, Gaurav. One point was I was trying to understand. Uh, Companies will innovate, they will go ahead, they will adopt technology, but how are regulators doing in this side? Are they adopting the latest technologies to monitor, to give a better access, or to give a free hand to industry? Uh, that is my I wanted to understand that how in each geographical location how that's happening. Say for example, are they putting more of a tech enablement in terms of adopting AI in their side, and how are they using these latest trends?
So is that a question to me, Manish?
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So I think we've seen that legacy systems play a really big role in pharma, unfortunately. Yeah. And it's very hard for pharma companies to get rid of legacy systems because it's like Lego blocks, right? This is what the basic stacks are built on. This is what the, historical data was built on. And then when something new comes in, there is a learning curve which is associated with anything new. And then they still have to keep the business as usual piece going. So from a regulatory perspective, it is managing even more systems as opposed to less systems, and therefore leads to a higher level of complexity. So you almost have to have a piece where you're willing to get rid of legacy systems. As I say, burn the bridge. Yeah. And if you burn the bridge with very simple test and learn options of something that's working, and Debraj and Rahul will have seen this. Someone said it at Next Pharma. They said we've got more pilots in pharma than we have in the RAF. Yeah, and it's true. We have so many pilot projects of trying out new technologies, but then we're not getting the scale across the world when it comes to healthcare systems. And the regulators are getting frustrated with that because that's another new technology for them to learn, and there is another new one to learn. I mean, AI itself is just LLMs, baby LLMs, Falcon, etc. There's so much stuff coming out. We can't expect a human brain, which has got the attention span of a goldfish, to be able to take all this in and then do something clever with it. So I think we need to go back to basics, and we need to be very clear and very auditable in saying these technologies work and these technologies used to work, but this is something now that is actually a step up and better, and therefore the regulators should be using this. There's no point in using an abacus now while we've got a supercomputer. You just don't do it.
Yeah, and just to build on that, right, from a global perspective, you see that FDA is publishing a lot of guidelines on how to use AI in the drug development. So these draft guidelines are just amazing. There is a recently FDA launched the AI in the drug development pilot program. So I think it's very good to see on how they are fostering collaboration, how they're giving guidance and support. But they're also giving funding. So EMEA, which is European Medicine Agency, they have launched a 10 million euros fund for AI in medicine innovation. So, go ahead and use that and see what is happening, what other people are doing out there. So, huge stuff happening in giving guidance and also providing funding.
Interesting.
Just
So
to add, sorry to cut you short, Manish, just to add a couple of points here. So Gaurav talked about the legacy system in place in the pharma companies. Now that is where there is an opportunity of collaboration between pharmaceutical companies and new generation health tech companies, because new generation health tech companies are more agile in terms of development, in terms of deployment and scalability, right? And the nature of skilled resources you would find, they would be far more in new gen health tech companies, right? So that is where a handshake between these pharmaceutical companies with legacy system, with the new age technology driven companies, can be a game changer, the way we have seen in BFSI domain, right? So all this legacy system in banking domain getting handshaked with fintech companies. So that's where the bigger chunk of opportunity lies in terms of pharmaceutical companies marrying with the new age technologically driven companies.
Okay. Uh, we as far as we are talking of a lot of innovation or technology, I believe every geographical location will have their own startup ecosystem. Just wanted to understand how this startup ecosystem in your particular geographical area is helping or is giving a competitive edge to the existing big pharma companies. So, can Rahul, uh, can you give your point of view on this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's very important, right? I mean, if these startups are the core, I always believe that is pharma is that big mothership which is going across and a bit slow paced because of the size of the industry and size of how it is. The startups are the very quick speedboats. which can really go out, understand what's happening in the markets, and come back and really help provide the right guidance. But there's a lot of good stuff happening in how to develop new technologies to address the challenges, as we discussed earlier in this call today, on what every one of us is kind of facing and kind of managing. There are a few good examples, I would say. There's a company called Flatrion Health. They are a startup that develop an EHR software, which is very specific to oncology and is giving a very robust data on the cancer research.
Wow.
On the cancer research, these kind of things are difficult to do. Usually if you see across industries, but if you don't have startups like this, it's very, very difficult. I also would say that the innovative solutions that they're bringing in the overall supply chain perspective is kind of outstanding. There's a lot of companies which are developing the blockchain-based ways that can track the movement of the drug through the supply chain. There's a company called Chronicled. I think you should Google them. It's amazing on how they are exploring blockchain and helping manage supply chain to ensure the drug authenticity. So Chronicle is doing some great work out there. And a lot of work on how to engage the patient in healthcare on their mobile. 10 years back, I wrote a blog where I said mobile will be the new stethoscope. And I think it is already now kind of already out there. And as AI is coming even bigger, right? There was a report by the BIS research, which said that the AI in pharma will be around 3.8 billion by 2025. So there's a huge work which is kind of happening on the behind the scene. There's also a company called In Silico Medicine, which is leveraging AI to expedite the drug discovery, which usually takes like years and years of the development. So I think startups are the right brains and hands, which is really helping empower the innovation up. If you are listening to this call, I would highly say that every day you wake up, like how you read your newspapers, go to these two websites, crunchbase.com and producthunt.com. There is a lot that you can learn just by going on these two websites and seeing what they're recommending each and every day. And when you really see with the real examples on what the startups are doing, where the funding are going, you'll be very positive about the outcomes and the possibilities which lies ahead in the pharma sector.
Fantastic to hear that. Fantastic. So, Devraj, how is India helping on yours? How is India startup ecosystem is helping pharma industry?
Yeah, so I think, look, when I was in India, I mean, just to make things clear, I'm now based in Switzerland. But when I was based in India, I did get involved somewhat with the startup ecosystem. I got involved with a couple of startups as an angel as well. And it was, really fascinating to see what's happening in India, right? Even in healthcare, right? So I can give also a few examples. There is a company called Meadow, which then came together with a company called Doxper. So what Doxper was trying to do was very interesting, because they came up with an electronic prescription pen, and they were trying to digitize all the prescriptions of the physician, and they were using it to give alerts to patients. So I think there's some very, very interesting business models emerging in India, a lot of startups. I think India is going to be one of the leading, let's say, ecosystems within healthcare startups. And I think right now, the challenge is not to be successful just within India, right? I think the challenge is to how do you take a technology from a geography and then make it multi-geography, right? That's how big companies grow. So I think it's going to be interesting also to see how the tech companies are going to leverage the existing platforms, because you've got great platforms in terms of Salesforce, in terms of Meta, Microsoft, and now OpenAI. So the question is, with the India stack that is already there, with all these other platforms that exist in the ecosystem, what is that great product that we can expect around the corner, and what problem in healthcare is that going to solve? Because I think right now, two promising college graduates coming out of college with a little bit of funding can build a global scale product out of India. I believe that time has come. So we'll just see what happens, and we'll wait in the wings to cheer them on, and see the journey ahead, and see what they can do.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Gaurav, how is that? We talked about a lot of innovations on AI, right? And how do you think how startup is contributing to pharma sector on the AI perspective?
Yeah, I think I'm lucky enough to be a startup, right? So it helps because we're at the forefront of all of this. And one of the things that I find interesting is that you have 3 or 4 very clear ecosystems. Right? So you have the Silicon Valley sort of Bay Area ecosystem, which allows for this, and you've seen successes like Row in the US, yeah, closing something like $500 million in Series D. You've got the Indian sort of startup ecosystem right now, being sort of pushed from the parliament to say, actually, for the first few years, you don't even have to pay tax. We will actually carry this, because what they want to see is more unicorns coming through India, right? And then there's decacorns. Yeah, that's when you become a Canva of this world. And I think there's so much in terms of the AI space, and there's two reasons. One, we always look at medicine as the sort of finished component, but AI looks at medicine as the molecule, and it's from the molecule comes the medicine, right? So very recently there was a study where they found a medicine as an antibiotic, which has eluded scientists for years, right? And the reason they managed to find it is because one startup, you know, put this into their AI model and did it. There's another AI model which is in Israel, and what they did is they did a request for information in terms of the startup of all the X-rays that were held from the cancer units in the UK, and then they imported that back to Israel. So don't worry about GDPR right now. And then they built an app which had something like 99.6% accuracy when it came to identifying metastatic breast cancer. So you've got all of these sort of AI ecosystems being built from startups. And then, there's also funds from big pharma companies which invest in these AI, companies as well. So I don't think it's going to be just one way. I think you'll see farmers, venture capital funds actually get very much involved much earlier at the molecule stage to bring all these things through. And there will be very specifically AI companies which become pharma companies in the next 10 years. No question.
Fantastic, fantastic. And coming to Deepak now, Deepak, you are more into data and analytics, and I'm sure in this uh, say sector itself, there is a lot of innovation going on. And I believe also, since your company is also into major into this, how does now startup affect, since the data, as you said, the data is quite available, and how does that affect today at pharma sector? I'm more talking like, is it a threat to bigger companies now? Are these small startups will become threat to bigger companies?
Manish, I wouldn't say that they would become a threat to the company, but they can be an extended arm of the core pharmaceutical industry, as we say. Now, let me give a small example. So there is a startup ecosystem in India, wherein historically we have in insurance domain, in healthcare insurance domain, we have not covered outpatient expenses, right? OPD expenses as a reimbursement from the health insurance companies, right? So you get admitted in a hospital, you incur expenses, you get it reimbursed, right? But now there are companies, you visit doctor, you pay $1,000 or $1,500, they reimburse you those amount as well, right? And in turn what they are doing is they are obviously collecting those related data points, right? And then there are companies like us who are basically helping those startup ecosystem to basically make those unstructured data collected into more structured way, which again can be used by the pharmaceutical companies to create better patient segmentation, better HCP segmentation, classifying normal prescription, doctor's prescription, into medicinal advice, into general healthcare advice, into diagnostic advices, right? So there are predominantly these three informations that are there in the doctor's prescription. Now, in Indian context, very less amount of HCPs, they are into digital domain, right? So nowadays there are some, but most of them prefer writing them on the prescription, right? So that is where using AI, helping these startup ecosystem extract those relevant information, make it structured, which again can be used by the pharmaceutical companies for better patient care management. So I don't see startup ecosystem to be a threat, but they can be game changer and an extended arm for the core pharmaceutical companies.
Okay, fantastic, fantastic, superb, superb. Uh, uh,
Manish, I think there was a
there is a
question on the chat.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
There was a question here. Yeah. So from Tohin Paul, are there any regulatory considerations or ethical implication associated with the use of AI in drug development and patient care? I will ask Gaurav to answer this question.
Okay. The answer is simply yes, and the reason is the way we feed the AI models that currently exist. So the bias that currently is sitting within AI is the biggest issue, right? Because we're training a model which is based off people who actually understand the technology, whereas sometimes healthcare is the hardest thing to get to people who don't understand the technology, right? Or they don't have the equipment, or they don't have the ability to code AI at this moment in time. So, are there implications? Absolutely. We do not want the same biases of the individuals who are informing the system to then say that's the one view of the world, right? When it comes to ethical care for patients. So, I think the simple way of trying to solve this is to get as many people from a diverse background as possible to start prompting AI, because that's what's going to lead to a much better outcome for everyone, as opposed to one subsect of a demographic of the northern hemisphere. That's not going to necessarily drive a better outcome for patients globally.
Mhm.
Yeah, and Tuhin, great question, right? This is huge, and I think a lot of people should ask this every day in every webinars, and I think it's so important. I totally agree with what Gaurav said. Is the answer is yes. I'll also add, if you have to categorize that, think of BOPA, right? B is biased. AI is trained on data, right? And what if the data is biased, right? So clearly an ethical concern. O is opacity, right? A lot of times this data is opaque. The doctors may not know what is the rationale behind training this neural network or large language models. So let's say if you take an app and you take a photo, and then the app says that somebody might be, they have a huge possibility of a skin cancer. And if a doctor is not comfortable seeing that, it may be wrong, it may be right, where is that transparency out there, right? So I think there is a lot of work to be done on the opacity side of it. P is privacy, right? What if tomorrow, what if, right? Hopefully it never happens. What if tomorrow insurance company, by the use of AI, figure out that this population of a certain geographic size is more prominent to a certain kind of health condition, and it increases their premiums, right? So there's a lot of issues out there on the privacy side of it. And lastly, accountability. If something happens to the patient, right? Any undesirable scenario, who is responsible? Is the insurance company who picked up one versus other ones available in the market? Is it the doctor who prescribed that? Is it the patient who accepted these terms and condition? So it's very, very important question. And I think the more we ask, the more we all will get to know about it.
Adding to what Rahul said, and to respond to Tuhin's answer questions, I'll take a small example, that the practical example that we encountered, right? So we were training the Chat GPT model for one of the pharmaceutical companies, and we were training it in the area of chronic diseases, right? And there was one specific question which said, can diabetes be reversed, right? Now, since these large language models have been trained on humongous amount of current data, which says, you walk down the lane and you see a hoarding which says, uh, join our fitness program, join our dietary program and reverse your diabetes, right? So that is where these AI models are picking up those responses and giving us the output. But when we kind of deliberated with the subject matter experts, with HCPs, right, they said that diabetes or these chronic diseases can never be reversed, but they can be managed due to lifestyle changes, right? So that is where we had to go fine tune the model to make it more accurate in terms of giving those output. So yes, the ethical output, the ethical implications are there, but in order to train these AI models, the help of subject matter experts would be highly required.
Manish, sorry, we couldn't
Uh,
hear you.
yeah, sorry. I hope Tohin has got his answer, and I also believe definitely there is a ethical implication associated with the use of AI. Without that, uh, there is no solution. Also, it would be a biased solution, and mostly it can take to. I mean, I still remember a movie called Terminator, right? I mean, our AI, or in fact the latest one, the Matrix. Uh, Coming down to I would say, looking at a time perspective, I am taking this as a last question. Okay, we have a lot of young graduates coming out of industry for universities, for industries, and the time has changed. I mean, whatever is expected, I mean, from year on year, the expectation is changing from any industry today. So, what's your take on pharma sector? What you're expecting from young graduates? What kind of a skill set they should have? Over to you, Ram. Ra-
Oh,
Hello.
sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would say, in a summary, remember three A's, right? I think which is very, very important for this young graduate. The first A is you need to learn analytics. There is no option right now that you will not be learning about analytics. I always say that in last decade, right? That I did mention in one of my articles that this decade there will be the entire job of digital marketers will go away because everybody will become digital marketers, right? So it's not
Mm,
that okay, we have a marketing person and we have one digital marketing person or maybe a team of digital marketing. No, everybody will be digital marketer. The same way right now we are seeing analytics, right? So you have people who are doing analytics, and then you have a group or a division who's doing analytics. That's going to go away. Everybody going to learn analytics. So first day analytics, you have to do that today. Like, it's not tomorrow, it's not day after tomorrow. Start learning that today. Second day is agile. Agile is a big methodology, and then there are various frameworks. If you need to work, and if you are working in a bigger company, even now marketing is becoming agile as well. You need to learn the process, because only then we will be able to innovate fast. One of the key reason pharma, healthcare, everybody's innovating fast is because of agile, because they understand fail fast is okay, right? Not everything has to be fully developed. It can be really tested in a very, very controlled environment. And then how do you learn from that? How do you learn from your previous mistakes? So first day analytics, second day agile, understand and learn the process. There are a lot of free courses, online courses you can do, sign up for analytics and agile. I highly recommend to get a certification on agile. It's great to showcase on your LinkedIn CV as well. And the third day, which you can do maybe day after tomorrow, right, is AI, right? So analytics, agile, and AI. If you have a command in this 3A or any of the 2A, you can be assured that at least your future for the next decade is very, very highly secured, and you'll have a very comfortable position in contributing to the success and eventually bringing the better patient health outcomes.
okay. 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 How about Gaurav? What's your take on? What's an expectation that you have from young graduates?
Yeah,
And I'm
I think
talking from,
yeah. Mm.
sorry,
Across the
I'm
world,
talking
yeah.
from any,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Rahul makes three A's, and I'll say that the biggest piece of advice that I was given from a leader at Novartis was this: it's ABC. Okay, so you've got the three A's, the Moody rating for Rahul, but in terms of the ABC, is that we need to have the ability to analyze. Right, we are all in this massive hurry to go out and build. Right, but we're not analyzing the market. We're not analyzing what the needs are. We're not doing that well enough. And I think that's the first key skill of critical thinking, develop that, which is the analysis. The second is to build, Okay, you don't need to break everything down to start it up again. Yep, and not everything is a hero's story or a heroine story. It is about building on what we've got and how do we bring that. And the third is C,
Hmm.
which is connect it. If you can start connecting the different ecosystems, if you can start being of value in terms of multi-stakeholder environments, if you can start seeing the world for what it is, it's just one global marketplace for all of these things, you'll suddenly realize that we are in probably the luckiest time frame we've ever been as, in terms of humanity, because geographical distance means nothing.
Hmm.
Our forefathers had to get onto ships to cross, seas to get to different lands. We can do it and on a StreamYard or a YouTube video that we're all together. So I think if you kind of learn to analyze, build, and connect in the next few years, you'll be absolutely fine when you graduate.
Fantastic. I like the last one, C, uh, co- connecting and collaborating. I would also add collaborating to it. Fantastic. That's a fantastic. Uh, so, Deepak, how do you're coming from a very a tech focused background, and what's your take? What Indian students should be equipped with today?
So the first thing which I would like to tell the young people that coming up in this AI/ML domain is learn the basics, right? Um, Nowadays we are being overwhelmed by the terminologies like neural networks, like artificial intelligence, but at the end of the day it's all statistics, is all maths, right? If you have your basics right, you can build solutions like chat gpt. But if your basics are not good, you can falter at every sphere of development. Second is business problem solving, right? And it is again not only to the young people who are coming in this domain, but also to the tech leaders. Now, if a person, if a developer comes to us, we tell them, look, you have to develop this particular module, right? The said developer doesn't have a fair bit of idea what that individual module is going to do in the entire technology or the solution development space, right? So that is where the opportunity or the responsibility of the tech leaders lies, that you tell your young developers that, look, you are developing this individual frameworks or individual module, but how this is going to impact the entire solution. So that is where it will indirectly or directly boost his confidence, motivate him more in terms of keeping him in silos and working. So these are two to dos which I would like to highlight.
Fantastic, fantastic. And in fact, I think this is a common problem coming up everywhere in all sectors also. Uh, Devraj, how do you put your point of view here in terms of uh, the young talent that are coming up? Do you think they have that crux which you or a lot of other graduates, maybe 10 years back or 15, 20 years back, had? Or is there a skill gap too?
Yeah, so I would say, look, I love the abbreviations from Rahul and Gaurav. I think those are great pointers. But I'd like to say something from my own career journey and what I've learned. So there are a few things I would say. So one is, you know, first of all, everyone has promise. I think we are going through a fantastic demographic transformation in India and elsewhere, where particularly in India, I see a lot of young, dynamic uh, people coming out. And I think the students of today, they are very comfortable working in either a startup or a big company or a small company. I think the kind of energy and passion and intelligence I've seen is unparalleled, right, in this generation. But I'd like to say a few things. So first of all, if you're trying to enter the pharma industry or healthcare industry as a young graduate student, number one, forget about the fact that what you have learned in college is the one that's going to serve you. It's going to serve you for first 2 3 years, but after that, you're going to continuously evolve and learn on the job, right? I mean, I'd argue that apart from Deepak, probably myself, Rahul, and Gaurav, we never studied digital marketing in college, but here we are, right? So your career is the second thing I'd like to say is your career is not going to be linear. is going to be, in lots of different ways, up, down, sideways. But that's a journey, and you have to embrace it. And I think when you're young, you have the capacity to do experiments, go out of your comfort zone, as long as you stay curious and stay hungry, and then you stay humble as well, and try to apply everything that you learned with the expectation that you have still so much to learn and so much to contribute. Nothing can stop you. And that's what I would tell the young generation.
Thank you very much, sir. I would just want to express my gratitude to each of our panelists for this valuable insight, expertise, point of view that you have given us. With that, I will conclude and hand over to Sunil for the for concluding this session and ending the first season of our program. Thank you very much.
So thank you all. It was absolutely fantastic. I was hearing all of you, and it was so valuable. And the kind of inputs which you all added was amazing. I was mesmerized. I'm not a technical guy, but I learned a lot from today's session. And this is a journey which is going to continue. And we'll be having more of such sessions in the future. And we look forward to all of that. And thank you once again, everyone, and for all your valuable time. And thank you, INT. Thank you, Abhishek. Abhishek has been so kind enough to, share this platform, and let's look forward. So thank you again, everyone. So I guess we can conclude the session now, and we can sign off.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sunil, for this opportunity. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.